Thinking too long. All right, cool. So we are live now, and I'm super happy to have a guest speaker this time. And this is episode 8, and we're going to talk about toxic femininity. And you guys are tuning into the Radical Rebel Midwife podcast blog. So super dope to have my friend Marisa here. That she's in Washington right now. She left El Paso, so I'm super sad. But we can still connect, and we're still friends. So it's really awesome. And she was here for El Paso for a while. We connected. I really connected with her. I was just like, wow, I never truly understood connecting with your own color and like similar race and your culture made a huge difference. And so that was like an eye-opener for me when I met Marisa. And so I was just like, oh, I so love her, because then I related things that I would think as a parent that was like, oh, you think like that too, and I'm normal. Like we're normal. And it was like less shaming, because I felt like everyone put this idea what a perfect parent should be, and that you shouldn't be doing this or think a certain way or speak a certain way. And even though we're both trying to become a better parent and gentle communication and changing our cycles, but there's still a deep connection in that sense. So I really love her. And not only that, she's a birth worker. She does photography, videos. She has a podcast all in Spanish, and she'll tell you more about that, which is really awesome. And she's a doula, and she's doing so many things, amazing stuff over there in Washington with other midwives. So I'm super excited for her to dive into this. So just in case you guys don't know who I am, my name is Stephanie, and I am a mother of 6 children from 18 to 4, and I'm also a full spectrum women's coach, everything from fertility, preparing your body for birth, for postpartum, parenting, even grieving and loss. I do all of that awesome stuff. So everyone, welcome, Marisa.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for having me. I love being here, and I love every single chance that I get to see your face. And thank you for all the things that you say. I miss you a lot.
I miss you too. I was like, she used to live over
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So tell us more. Tell us more about your experience, your ventures that you're doing. Share.
Well, I am a birth worker in so many different ways. I started really actively attending births in 2016. Really, I started my business. I remember I got my business license at the end of 2015. And then I started really kind of diving into doing birth work in 2016. And I was very actively attending births all the way until the pandemic started. And now I have kind of pivoted away from going to births, but I'm still a birth worker in so many different ways. I'm a childbirth educator. That's my main thing right now. I'm teaching a lot of childbirth education. I work for the Center for Indigenous Midwifery, training new Indigenous childbirth educators, and like traveling around in communities to like start finding more offers for childbirth education in communities where there is like really not that much. And I also work privately with people sometimes preparing them for birth. And I have the podcast. It's called La Revolución del Parto, where we talk mostly about home birth in Latin America, all around Latin America. And it's been a really cool opportunity for me to learn about birth culture in different countries, and like what are like the legal structures that allow for certain things to happen more easily in certain places as opposed to in other places. So yeah, and I'm originally from Mexico. I'm from Chihuahua, right there at the border. And yeah, I have been living in Washington for a long time, for too long. I tried to escape the cold and the wedge to go to El Paso, and I was really happy over there. But now, life brought me back here, and just trying to figure out why.
You're like, why again?
Some reason why I need to be here now. Yeah.
No, yes, but life could change again, and it's gonna be really awesome, and praying a lot.
Like,
Bring Marisa back. But no, but I'm excited. I'm super happy that I know you and that you're so amazing. But and we always had like really deep conversations, and then you even times are like, Stephanie, why are you talking about this, or why are you talking about these little things? And because I think a lot, and going into birth work and understanding the relationship between clients and other birth workers, you think a lot. Well, I think a lot. And
yeah.
so I know one time we talked about toxicity when it comes to femininity, and I thought that was
Mhm.
really important to talk about. And I feel it's in any aspect from, being just a person, a woman, a human. It could also be of parenting, even the birth, like when you're trying to birth, and even as a professional. And I feel like it's super important to like talk about those areas, and also know like how can we be proactive in canceling that toxicity femininity culture that we have.
Yeah. Well, so first, I do want to say like the term toxic femininity is like kind of really, I would say is made up, but really everything is made up. It's just kind of like the words that I thought would make sense, and I started just kind of using this term, but it's not really something that I have been able to like do a bunch of research about it, not very talked about. We talk a lot about toxic masculinity, and we know that like there are certain attitudes that we have towards masculinity that make it into a very hurtful behavior in our society. But then when I started like really kind of just like formulating this concept in my brain in the way that I understand it, was actually through observing what was going on in the birth world in my community. And now that I think about it, and I have done some more research and more thinking, like I think it is very closely connected to just misogyny in general and internalized misogyny, which is just we really, in so many different ways that are not so easy to pinpoint, we think of women as lesser. And that's really what it is, misogyny. It could even really just be like a hatred of women, and it can be a self-hatred when we are women, and a hatred towards older women. We can see that like in many different aspects of society, in the way that we judge women so much harsher than what we judge men, right? Like we see it in parenting in terms of like like there is this comic strips where you see like the comparison of when a dad does something and when a mom does something. So like a dad orders pizza and he's the hero of the day, he's like the fun dad, and he's like doing so much to care for his children. A mom orders pizza and she's lazy and she should be doing better, right? So we see it like that. And that's not necessarily exactly what I was talking about with toxic femininity, but it's definitely part of it. The way that I started observing it was actually through this phenomenon that I saw happening with birth world, where there is new birth workers that start their work and everybody kind of expects them to work for free. And there is like a certain connection with like, as women, we are socialized to think our whole lives that we are as valuable as what we can give to others, right? How can we be in service of others? And sometimes we can discern like intellectually that's not true, but internally, like what's going on inside, we still have a voice inside of our head that says like you have to give more. And what I was noticing with birth work was a lot about people like kind of almost competing to who could do it for cheaper, who could give more for less. And then I started realizing like it really just shows up in a lot of different ways. Like is this thing that if you are able to give so much without expecting anything in return, then you are a good woman, right? You are like a good mother, you are a good friend. As much as you can give and not ask for anything in return. That's like even when it comes to like the concept of um, unconditional love. I remember a podcast that I listened to, they were saying like, if you want an unconditional love, get a dog. That's the only the only way that you will get that. Is unfair to expect people to uh, I mean, when you're a parent, yes, love your kids unconditionally, but like in any other relationship, if you are loving someone unconditionally, even if they are hurting you, even if they are oppressing you, even if they are ignoring you, even if they are like causing you harm, then that's not healthy. And as women, we are taught that uh, love is worth it, right? Like that is worth the pain that we go through, is worth the suffering that we go through. And we internalize that a lot in many different ways, where we really just like are socialized to think that we're responsible for everyone's emotional well-being, and that especially if you are in a relationship, that you are responsible for making the relationship work. And we see it in our families, we see it in the media, we see it in parenting culture, we see it everywhere. So yeah, but the first way that I noticed it was that people were constantly like, I know lots of people go into birth work because they experience something extremely traumatic, or because, well, yeah, like it's either because they experience something very traumatic or because they have a really good birth. But I would say most people have a traumatic experience during birth, and like really suffer a lot of obstetric violence and abuses. And when people realize that that's not okay, they want to go into birth work to help other people not have to go through that. But there is a certain sense of duty that comes from like wanting to save people, which makes people feel like a certain sense of like, I am noble, I am valuable because I am willing to do this, and it's not about the money, it's just about helping people, right? But through that is like so many times we are pushed into this extreme where we're like negating our own needs and our own um, well-being in order to fulfill this role, which again falls into this thing of like, as much as you can give without expecting anything in return, that makes you a better person, and specifically a better woman, you know. And we know it's not just like about women and men. There's lots of different things in between, right? But in mainstream society, that's how we are divided, right? There is like the women and there is the men, and the women have this role and the men have this role. So that's kind of like the concept that we have been talking about for a while.
Yeah, I think that's really hard, especially when, I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I want to go to school. I want to become a midwife, but I also have to make money. I have to pay bills. I have to contribute. I have to like help out. And yeah, it would be great if I had like abundance of money just flowing and I could just dive into taking births and doing whatever I need to do for my clinics to do my numbers. But in the same time, it's like, well, that's not my reality. My reality is I have to help out. I have a quota to do at least something. And then I feel like, sometimes even the amazing women who are want to help other women to become midwives, especially people of color, we're like, yeah, more people of color, more people of color. But yet I feel I'm not sure how to like pinpoint it, but I feel the method is still a bit colonized, like very
Mhm.
stressful. And then people were like, what does that mean? I'm like, I just don't know. It's just this feeling that doesn't make sense. Like have a balance. Like this is my lifestyle and I need to find a balance. And this is not a balance that I have to
Mhm.
do and just dive in. I should just be on call all the time and be in the clinics all the time. And I just haven't found that flow, or I feel like scary to be like, like you feel scared to be like, I need this boundary and I hope you guys could help me with this boundary and I will do my best when I'm there, but then I can't always do everything. So it's
Mhm.
just like I feel like it's so hard to like communicate because then I guess we have that where we have to give and we just gotta do and we gotta sacrifice no matter what. And I don't want to sacrifice my family. I don't want to sacrifice my finance and I don't want to sacrifice my dream. I want
Mhm.
to be a midwife. So how can we have a balance? It's like
Yeah.
that's my answer right now. Like my question, like help me to find that. So I'm like really like, you know, asking the universe, God, Krishna, whoever, to help me find that place that I could do all that because I feel we always somehow have to sacrifice. But the men, normally men go to school, go to work, and who has to sacrifice? Like us. like it's just kind of like weird.
Yeah. Actually, it's really it's pretty depressing. But I was just reading a book recently about financial wellness. It's called, I don't even know if that's how she would describe it, but it's called "We Should All Be Millionaires," and it talks about outsourcing like certain things in your work. You know, she talks about like, oh, like hire a personal assistant, even like just 4 hours a week, so that this personal assistant can be doing the things that you don't have time to do, and then you can hire a person or a service, like, you know, like one of those like Hello Fresh or whatever, like services where like you have like certain parts of the dinner taken care of, and you can hire like high quality healthcare, I mean childcare, whatever. And like I was talking to a friend about it and telling her about this book, and she's like, oh, or if you are a heterosexual man, you just marry a woman, right, and then everything's taken care of. And they were just like, oh my god, that's like, so I didn't think about that, but that's true. And at least when you're hiring people, you're like paying them and recognizing that you need them. But in the moment that you enter a relationship like that, like the expectation in society is that we're just going to do all those things, that's our role. And like we don't really necessarily think, like, you know, people will say like, oh, she doesn't work, she just stays home with the kids. And it's just like, well, that's a huge amount of work. And it's hard to find that balance because we live in a world that is not balanced, you know. So we are fighting against this like gigantic monster, and we have certain institutions that are trying to change that. So for instance, when we're talking about birth work, there are places that will like offer special scholarships for birth workers of color to be able to enter into this work and pay for their trainings and pay for whatever, right? But yeah, you're right. There is a lot of times that they come with a certain expectation that they, what they are doing is like training someone that is gonna be working with lower income communities, that is gonna be charging less, that is gonna be working for free. That was a little bit what happened to me when I entered this community, and I got offered a scholarship to go do a dual training, and I was really grateful and happy about it. And I did want to work for a nonprofit, and I wanted to work with low income communities, but also I had the reality that I was very poor, you know, and sometimes I would be working with people for free, and I would go to their houses and I would just be like, yeah, like maybe they don't feel like they have money, but I still feel like, you know, they live in a house that is way bigger than my little apartment. I would like live in a 1 bedroom apartment, and I would see like their shoes and their car and whatever. And I was just kind of like starting to feel a little resentful that that I was just kind of constantly putting my own resources to serve other people, and that there was a certain expectation that because I had gotten a scholarship, I was gonna be doing that work. And I don't know if the expectation came so much from the institutions. I bet that a little bit of it did, but there was also a little bit of internalized toxic femininity where I just felt like, well, you know, I got given a gift and now I'm gonna return it like 10 times fold, even though I didn't actually have so much the capacity or the resources or the support network whatsoever. And I mean, some people will argue about this and they will say like, you know, when you are um, like an intern for a company after you finish your education, you will be working for free, and it's part of what is getting you experience. And I understand that, but when we are talking about in like historically marginalized communities, that idea of like climbing a ladder, it's very uh, fake. Like, you know, it's so much harder, and it's just it keeps people into this cycle where like you feel like, if I step away from this work, like how are we gonna do this? And really, what happens is like we should be spending more of our money as a country and in the world, really at a global level. We should care more for moms. Like the United States is one of the very few countries where we really don't have maternity leave. There are some states like Washington is a good place to have a baby because they offer maternity and paternity leave, so both parents can take some time off that is paid time off from work. But for the most part, in the whole country, people are not able to take time off. Like the women Spain is constantly dismissed. Like, you know, we run into like these gigantic institutions that keep on going this, and we are like a few handful of people that are just like, oh, we gotta change things, and we have like a nonprofit or we have a little bit of money for these. And then it just starts becoming like this overwhelming weight that we're trying to carry into improving maternal health, into reducing postpartum depression, into reducing infant mortality, where really when we look at it at large, society doesn't actually care. So society is really fast to blame everything on women. When someone is pregnant, it's like, oh, offer them the seat on the bus, and like everybody's like thinking that there is like a blank slate that we all must protect and take care of, and we feel like we are entitled to give advice to people. Oh, don't drink coffee. Oh, don't eat fish or whatever. We are constantly like monitoring and policing women to protect them because we think that like women are not smart enough to take care of themselves. But then once the babies are born, nobody cares anymore. Like women that have a crying baby in the supermarket, most of the times won't get support. They will get like looked like, you gotta get out of here, like calm that baby down. We will be like judging people for breastfeeding. We will be judging people for formula feeding. We will judge people for sleeping with their babies. We will judge people for putting their babies in a separate room. Like mothers just face so much judgment all the time, and which is like so much contrast in terms of like how like we think about like protecting pregnant women and protecting the fetuses, but then once the babies are born, nobody really is helping anymore. So we are like facing this giant structure, and it's very hard. It's like fighting like David and Goliath, right? Where like this like little group of women, most of the time women, sometimes non-binary folks, very, 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 very few men that see this problem and are like, okay, well, let's do something to fix it. And it's such a big problem that we gotta put our everything. But when you put your everything into fighting something like that, what is left for you and for your well-being? And as people of color and women, like one of the biggest things that we can do, like revolutionary stuff, is just thriving, being able to actually take care of ourselves, being able to take time off, being able to provide for our families. That's all just very revolutionary stuff because we don't really have gotten like historically really that much time to rest or to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Two things that you brought me up made me think of is like one, when we're doing clinicals, like medical students, they go do their school and then they're gonna go do their clinicals, their residential, right? That's clinicals, residential, and they're getting experience. And they're calling themselves doctors, but they're not licensed yet. But while they're doing that experience, they're getting paid.
Mm, yeah.
And then I'm just like, what's about with us midwives? Like what? Like I get it, but it's just like there has to be some shift that we can make it work in that way. Like how can we create that, void? Like we were talking to my school last 2 semesters ago, where they're saying, okay, there's a need for good food, and there's farmers, and then there's people with food stamps. How can we help the farmers who go to like farmers market and get to accept food stamps? So then the people would come and support, and we're all supporting each other, So it's like that little gap. It's like, how can we help the students and the midwives? And the midwives are getting, reimbursed in the sense that because they're teaching, they're helping you to get experience, but yet you're also helping the student midwife to make a living,
Hmm.
and we're all helping the client. Like it has to be something. I'm not sure how, I haven't thought of it, but it has to be something. Another thing was, you know, there's someone in the grocery is crying, like the baby's crying. The mom's like, oh my God, stop it. You're just gonna get it. Don't behave like that. Like they do that. And they feel like this like huge embarrassment. I know when I was younger mom, I felt like this embarrassment. Like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. My baby's crying. I can't control him, blah, 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 whatever. And then recently I saw like, and then kids are kids, like they do their tantrums. It's normal. Like, and so I always see like it's a normal thing where Peter Piper, and there was this kid just like, no, I don't want to go over there. I want to go over here. And the mom's like, over here carrying a baby and then trying to get her son. And then the son decides to throw himself. And I'm like, oh, I know that feeling, It's just kind of
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
I love you, but why, kind of thing. And, and I was just like, do I get up and suggest for my help? Because it could go two ways, where it's like yes, or other ones could go like, what the hell, it's your problem. So it's a scarcity too. Like, and so I was just like, screw it. I'm just gonna get up and ask for her. I could help her. You know, I was like, hey, you want me to help you? I'll carry your baby over there with you. Or I'll carry that baby. Don't worry, I get it. And she was like, no, it's fine. And I think it's also that, you know, I'm the mom, I'm the woman. I should got this under control. And so it's just really hard that there's times that because of that mentality, we don't know how to ask for help. And then again, it's that
Rejected
scarcity.
straight up, like that lady straight up. I think I have been at that place, I think I had been that mom where it was like, no, I don't need any help. And I would like
Mhm.
say no to someone that was trying to help me because there was a certain shame attached to the fact that I was having a hard time regulating my own emotions around explosive little people,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, and it wasn't like I was like, but it was just like, okay, like I respected that because I get it. I was the same way. You know, I've exploded on people who are judging me like, your child is crying. Don't you see him? And I was like this 20-year-old person, very more choled out, you know, and I totally went ballistic cussing at her.
hmm
And then I like realized like, oh my God, I cussed at this lady, you know, but you know, sometimes that's why you don't ask for help because there's people like that, you know?
Yeah, you
And
don't
then
necessarily know what the intentions of someone is if like they're trying to prove a point. Um, yeah, it's hard.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I always think it's really important to talk about this. And, you know, and that's where, you know, I seem like being a doula and being a midwife is kind of somewhat being a little rebellish because then you're trying to disrupt a system that
hmm
is very unfair. And
hmm
so, since we're doing that to clients, we should also do it to ourselves as a profession. I
Yeah.
just think it's so important. Like, let's disrupt this, and how can we make it worthwhile for everyone, you know, and not
Mhm.
where we're just depleting each other. And since they're depleted, I feel like sometimes people are like, well, I'm depleted and I've done all this. Now it's your turn to sacrifice and do all this to be where I'm
Mhm.
at. You know, and it's kind of like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
want to. And then I become a rebel, you know? I'm like, I refuse this. You know?
and that's what I love about you.
I'm like, I will fight. I'll find a way. I don't know how, but I'm gonna, the door's gonna open or I'm gonna find someone. I don't know, something. And
Yeah.
just there's always possibilities. I refuse to be able to tell me that there's no possibilities, you know, like you cannot tell me this is the only way. I don't believe you.
hmm
That's me with everything.
Yeah. No,
But
I hear you. There's so many things, but like I really think specifically with midwives, there is a whole entire system that thinks that women are too dumb and too fragile and too hysterical to really make good decisions for themselves, right? And midwives come into this space and they're just like, no, we can listen to women, we must listen to women, and we have to provide better conditions for people to give birth. And there is more to birth than just having a beating heart at the end of the birth for the mom and the baby. There is like all these other things. But within that system there's like no recognition. When you were talking about the doctor, even if he's getting paid for his internship or his service or whatever, not getting paid a lot, there is a certain aspect where we look towards these doctors and we think of them as heroes, like the people that are like, what more noble or more proud can you imagine than a parent being like, oh, my child is a doctor, like they're saving lives. There's like a certain glorification of the figure of a doctor, but that doesn't happen so much with midwives. And when it does, like there is again that toxic femininity implied, where it's just like, she's so amazing because she's so giving that she doesn't care that she's not making money, that she has to leave her children to be able to go serve this community. And that's how, like, part of how we shift this is by stopping those narratives, right? And like, I think I saw a lot of really interesting stuff in my social media feed during Mother's Day, where I sometimes it's hard to know like if the world is like really shifting in the ways that I imagine it shifting, because I also live in my own bubble, especially when it comes to social media. You know, people post something that I don't like and I don't follow them, or I delete them from my Facebook. But like what I saw come through my newsfeed when in Mother's Day was a lot of just like, we need to stop thanking mothers for being ever giving, you know, because like they probably don't actually even want to do that. We're just like thanking them for something that doesn't make them feel good, that doesn't provide for their well-being, that is just like toxic, really. Like it's not good. Like we need to start seeing mothers as people. We need to start hearing what are they need their needs. Like we need to stop expecting them to be like the perfect angel that takes care of everything. um and I thought it was really interesting because, at least like I tell you, in my own little tiny little bubble, I have seen it shift in the last few years. I would see like a lot more of like, um I mean, like my friend circle has always been feminist, right? But like I have seen even within the feminist movement, the narrative around motherhood pointing more towards like, yeah, we need to stop glorifying the ever sacrificing giving mother, because it's just an illusion that is really harming us as society, and that is harming our children, that is harming our families, that is harming most and everything, is harming women, right? And sometimes like that's not enough for society. You know, like harming women is just like, oh well, you know, we need to talk about like, how does it harm the babies if the mothers are not well taken care of, you know, because it's not enough for the world to be thinking about how this is causing harm to the mothers. We need to project that into how it is going to affect the children, which is really sad, because it should be enough that mothers are suffering, that mental health is like getting worse, but it is not for a lot of these aspects. But yeah, like I was thinking it was interesting to see that shift when it comes to like Mother's Day. And there was a birth center in Mexico City that closed recently, and when they closed, everybody was just like, oh, it's so sad, why did they close it? Don't you see that more women need this care, and it was making a big difference for people? Like how could they close this birth center, you know? The people that were running the birth center were just like, we just couldn't do it anymore. It was not sustainable. It costs money to pay the rent. It costs money to keep the light on. And then people would just come and be like, oh, midwives are charging too much money, like it's so selfish. Don't they see that the mothers need help? There are so many people that just cannot pay for these. And it's just like, yeah, like it's unfortunate. We live in a really shitty capitalistic system that keeps some people from accessing the services that they need. But creating a structure where that burden of making a difference falls only on the people that understand the problem, and by like completely just like giving away everything that they have and getting burned out, it's just not serving anyone, you know? And I think like a big part of what we need to change this is to get also men involved in understanding this problem, and to take care of ourselves and take care of each other, and stop having these expectations for ourselves and stop having them for each other. Because when we are, you know, like we can feel like the best mom in the world because we pack. I like packing lunches sometimes. Sometimes I hate it. But if I pack a very beautiful lunch for my child, I will like take a photo of it and just like be like, oh my God, I'm such a great mom. And like, you know, I don't actually post it on social media, but if I were to post it in social media, when I post pictures of my perfect lunch and just be like, oh, what a great mom I am. And then people are like, oh, what a great mom you are. That just also contributes to this idea of constant sacrifice and how can we serve others. And I remember very well when I was in college, I was looking at like, I was really into bento boxes at that time, and I saw like some beautiful bento boxes with like cucumbers cut in shapes of stars or whatever, and like mini little butter and jelly sandwiches, and I thought it was so cute. And I remember saying like, when I am a mom, my kids will always have lunches like these when they come to school. And someone that worked with me looked at me and she was just like, bullshit.
She's
Like, you're
like,
gonna
yeah,
have better
whatever.
things to do than to cut cucumber slices in the shape of the stars, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to do that. And you know, I understand that there are people that get lots of joy from that, and that's okay. I get lots of joy from packing a good lunch every once in a while. But when that's the only thing that I share, then we are creating a culture where we glorify those things and we don't make space for talking about the ridiculous tantrum that the kid threw and how like we felt embarrassed about that. You're not allowed to feel embarrassed for your children. You're supposed to only feel gratefulness and joy and do it like with a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, sometimes they're just like, oh yeah, there's so much stuff
Yep.
to I'm just like, I want to say, and it's like everything wants to come out at the same time, and it makes no sense. That's how it feels. But no, yeah, I hear you. Like, even to be where, like, no, I don't want to, do this as a mom. Like cooking, like, ugh, I don't know. I love cooking, and then I hate cooking, And then when I really make a good meal, it's because I was inspired. But do you want me to do this every day? Like, you're crazy. Like I don't even know how my abuelita would do it. Like tortillas and empanadas every single day, and then she's sewing, and it's just it's so much. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
much. It's just kind of like no, like they always have this idea of what a good mom
Yeah.
is, and no.
And in our culture, it's even worse.
Well, it's kind of like I remember like when I started being the new wife of my husband, like
Mhm.
brand new, whatever, and or not even married yet. We were not even married, and then Art didn't. I hate ironing. I hate it. I really do it. It's rare when I do it. I try to use like the spray thing, shake it
Mhm.
off, and
Mhm.
I'm like, good enough. Unless it doesn't work, then I'll bust out the big machine. I'm just kidding. That's not even a big machine, but I'll bust it out. Right? It's like, and he went wrinkly to his parents, and they had this family meeting. They all used to do these family meetings with us. So it's like everyone against us, pretty much. And they're like, you need supposed to be ironing for him, and look, he looks like this, and blah blah. And I was like, you didn't teach your son how to iron? I was like, I teach my son iron. He's already 8. Like, he knows how to wash his dishes. He knows how to like wash his clothes. And then my son's grandma was like, "Mijo, negrito, no te lavas tu mom. Your mom is not washing for you." And he's like, "No, why not?" And I was like, "Because it's called being dependent, and they could do stuff for themselves and help me."
Mhm.
Like, what?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like they have this idea like you have to go iron, you have to fold the clothes, you need to do everything, and I don't know. And I'm just like, no, he could do it himself. Now, if he needs help, he could say, hey, I'm running out of time. Can you help me? Then, yeah, I'll help him. Like, help you, fine. Maybe I'll be like a little whiner, but I'll help you.
Mhm.
But, like they have this expectation you have to give them lunch, and you don't ask them a lot because they work so hard out of the house, and they're providing, and yeah, I do believe you should always do this appreciation. Like me and him are recently going to counseling, and if and it felt weird because it was a guy understanding me. Maybe he's been doing this a
Mhm.
lot,
Mhm.
but it felt like he understand exactly what I was feeling because I had like no words, and
Mhm.
he like pinpointed it, and I was just like, wow, why are you a guy telling me how I feel? and
Uh-huh.
you're white.
Mhm.
It's just like two things I was just like fine, but he like understood, and he said certain things, and he was just saying how he even asked, what do you want? Like, what do you want, Stephanie? What do you need? And it was just so hard to say what I need. I was like, I don't know. I just feel stuck, and I feel numb, and that's how I feel, and that's where I'm at. And he was just like acknowledging that it's okay to feel that way, So it was nice, and I understood a little bit, and I understood him. So we have homework, and it's just trying to appreciate ourselves. Like yesterday, I did to like Melody, Mona, I just want to tell you something I appreciate for blah blah blah, and you're being honest. You're not just like being all ugly. And then I told to Roger, I told to Art, And then Roger tried to be funny, but he did it to me, and that felt weird, but nice that he said that. And, it's just that, like we all just pitch in. We all try to help each other, not feel stressed. And we do say honest things of how we appreciate. And that's was nice, like
Mhm.
versus like to be called a good mom or a good wife or a good woman or a good person, you have to do all this by yourself, like and don't ask anything for your husband because he's so hardworking. And it's like, well, what do you think we do? We do
Mhm.
a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, think about what your career would be like if you had someone that does all the cooking, that takes care of the kids whenever they need something, that remembers to make all the appointments, and that
Take him to appointments,
yeah, that like that takes them to appointments. Like
pack snacks for
mhm.
the appointments.
Like think about what your career would look like if you had someone that took care of all of those things for you. You
And
know,
the cleaning and laundry and putting the laundry away, please.
cleaning the laundry. Yeah, the laundry. Just if you had someone that took care of all of the laundry, how much of your mental space would be freed up? It's just it's like it's really messed up that we have um to fight for this stuff. It's just ridiculous. And that we are that the people that dedicate their lives to doing these, like stay at home moms, uh are thought of as someone that doesn't work, someone that should just be grateful for a husband that brings the bread to the table. But in reality, if the roles were reversed, who knows what women would be able to do with the capacity that we have for multitasking, for the capacity that we have for having higher emotional intelligence, like all the things that we would be able to do if we were only given the chance to do it. Especially for people that feel very passionate. There are people that feel very passionate about like their ideas and the difference that they want to make in the world, but like it's impossible to make time for all these things in between that incredible amount of work that it is to to be the caretaker. I remember listening to this podcast where they talk about it and they call it the economy of care. How like the vast majority of people that live in poverty all around the world are women. It's so much more likely that you will be living in poverty if you are a woman. And it just like it's because women get paid less, and also all the jobs that need to be done by someone and nobody wants to do, most of those are done by women. So I think, yeah, like there's a whole bunch of, we need to divide better the things that people don't want to do. Even just like the fact of feeling overwhelmed when like if you leave the house, like there's some, especially I remember when I was a new mom, it was really really hard for me to do anything because I would worry so much about how my kid was doing. I'd be like, he will miss me, he will need milk, he will need to be held, like he just like needs me. And I had such a hard time stepping away from that because like it was just so hard to imagine my baby feeling overwhelmed, and I didn't feel like anyone else could handle that feeling. But even sharing the feeling of overwhelm, like if you walk away and you go to whatever yoga class or you go for a walk by yourself without your baby, and it feels difficult and the baby is crying and the person that is taking care of the baby, be your partner or your parent or whoever, is feeling overwhelmed and is feeling like um tired of holding the baby, sharing that feeling of overwhelmed is also important. We shouldn't be carrying with that by ourselves. And very often what happens is that the moms will be taking care of all the cooking and the cleaning and the feeding, and then the dads will come and interact with the kids by playing with them for an hour or something like that. And then the moms feel like it's not their role to play with the children. A lot of moms feel like they cannot play with their children, they don't know how to play with their children. And it comes from that, is because your space, your mental space and your emotional space is so taken over by all these other responsibilities that you just don't know how to be present with your children anymore, because there are so many other things that need to be taken care of. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. And in our culture there's also like this um, very interesting way that colonization played off, where when the Spaniards came over, like in imposing the Catholicism, was the figure of the Virgin Mary took over the figure of Tonantzin, and Tonantzin was Mother Earth, the big mother, the big female figure, and it was replaced, like this big, powerful, abundant figure of motherhood was replaced by the sacrificing mother that was able to sacrifice everything for her child, that was even willing to sacrifice her own child in service of the father, of the big father God. So that was like a very relevant aspect of it, I think, like that it still permeates into so many attitudes that we have towards motherhood. And the Virgin Mary is like the always soft, the always nice, the never angry mother that we compare ourselves to, which is completely unfair and unrealistic, and it really causes a lot of harm. And the thing that is really important to think about that is that this costs people's some people have to pay with their life for these. If we think about postpartum depression and people say, oh, it's just hormonal, it's just a hormonal reaction. Just hysterical women will just get over it. But it's not just hormonal, it's a completely normal response to a society that doesn't care about mothers and babies, or well, specifically about mothers, right? So like lots of people get postpartum depression so bad that they will take their own lives, and we don't really take it very seriously until something like that happens. And then it's just like, oh well, thoughts and prayers, and it's so sad, and it's too bad. But it's really causing so much harm in so many different levels.
Yeah, it's like one incident happened here not that long ago, maybe like less than a year. This woman, I didn't see it in our group, in the women's group, Apostle Women's or whatever. And she was saying how she needed help, and apparently she posed twice. I didn't see it. But then we see the article that she killed herself and I think her baby. And so many women are like, "Oh, what a disgusting person!" Oh no, she killed her baby. I don't think she killed herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, she's disgusting. She's horrible." And you're just like, I mean, I'm not saying like, okay, that was the right thing to do. Like, like going to that far, it has to be something like very huge, like going on in your head, and but at the same time, it's like she was asking for help, no one was listening. There's so much things, like there's always so much things, like they just, I can never find that's like a white and black thing. There's so much things interconnected that there is a wrong thing involved in the situation, but then there's another lack of thing lacking in there that contribute to that result. It's just same thing when you talk about abortion. Like I love my aunt and I'm always going to talk to her, but she sometimes brings topics that I'm just like, we're going to agree to disagree, because there's so much into that story that you can't just say how horrible this person, and that they should be responsible and not have sex, and if they don't want abortion. And I'm just like, it's just there's so much into that. You just can't like say how horrible this person is, because you're not there, and obviously you're not there helping. And okay, yeah, everyone does mistakes. Maybe they got pregnant, maybe they should have not got pregnant, maybe their life is not stable, whatever, but yet it happened, and you're still not there helping.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that could cause why maybe her lifestyle wasn't ideal to have a baby. What I mean? It's just like there's so much into that story that you just can't, and this is why, we should not get offended, and it's also knowing how to say no to things. No, I
Mm-hmm.
can't right now. Like someone reached out to me like, hey, you want to help me in this birth? Could help you with your numbers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm so happy I'm done with my numbers. And at this moment, I'm not. And there was a sense of me that I felt very guilty to say no. And I was very scared to seem like I'm lazy, right? Because I'm not. And, but in the same time, I felt so good. It was more good feeling to say no, because I've set this huge boundary for myself that at this moment, I'm not taking births. because I
Hmm.
need to focus on other stuff in my life that no one's gonna understand except me, you know? So and a lot of women of my family and friends that I love so much, they die because they don't know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and one of those people that died, she was trying to give me supplements at one time, and she's like, I was like, well, I only have $400 right now. This is how much I'm going to spend. You know, like I want to get for my family, but I also want to get for me. And then to get everyone, it was going to be more than $400. And so I was like, and then she's like, well, you could remove yours and get for Carmen. And I was just like, well, see, as a postpartum doula, what I always preach is that yes, we're here for our family, yes, we're here for our babies, but we gotta take care of ourselves so we could be here longer,
Hmm.
healthier, stabler
Hmm.
mentally for our babies. So no, I'm not going to remove my stuff for Carmen. I love Carmen, but at this moment I'm gonna take it for me. And this is what I need.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, you know, kind of like sometimes they feel like it's a slap in their face of truthiness,
Yeah.
but it was for me. It's like, no, I can't. I'm not gonna neglect my house right now. You know, it's like no.
Yeah. And I think you're touching on such an important subject when you're talking about this, because it really comes down to, like, we haven't talked about this word, and I don't think we have mentioned it in the whole entire life, but it's about not wanting to be selfish. That's like, and that's again where we get into like the whole toxic femininity thing, like this gigantic fear that we have of being selfish. And even just right now, when you said like we have to be here longer for our babies, we shouldn't have to justify it in we have to take care of ourselves for our babies. We have to take care of ourselves, period. But is what I was telling you, society doesn't think that that is valid, because as a mother you are expected to put yourself last. You're expected to not really have your own desires, to not even have your own wishes. If you're doing something for yourself, it's because it's going to make you a better mother, so that you can take better care of your baby, so that you can be here longer for your babies, so that you can be a better server to other people. You know, like you take a day off so that you can show up the next day to give everything and get nothing in exchange. And that's the way that we are socialized, and it's so hard because it is so internalized that it's really hard for us to even see. And when we talk about a lot of like these things, you know, like when we talk about misogyny can show up in anyone's life. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It shows up for everyone. Like, and it's really hard to deconstruct because we don't even know how to identify it. But every time that we say, oh, that woman is horrible because she was so selfish, she like ate before her kids, you know, that's internalized misogyny, that we are judging this person, and we're also making ourselves think like, oh, I am better and I am gonna eat last because I will put myself last. I am better because I am not selfish, because I need to be selfless. And we don't hold men to the same standard. We do not. And like we could say like it's just about being a good person, but it's not. It's about fulfilling this role that society has given us, that really sustains so many of the things. Because really, if you didn't have someone doing all these things, all these jobs, like taking care of the kids, taking care of the elderly, taking care of like the house, taking care of the food, like how would humanity keep on going, right? So it's yeah, it's very heavy, like this whole thing about like not wanting to be selfish and not wanting to be seen as selfish, and how harshly we judge other people when we perceive, especially mothers and women of all things. Like we don't want women to be ambitious, we don't want women to be caring for themselves, unless it is with this higher purpose that by caring for themselves they will show up better for the people that they need. And it's just like it's really predominant, and it's really harsh, and it's really harmful, not only for others but also for ourselves. We are like harming ourselves and harming other women every time that we perpetuate these things, and we don't really even notice it. And it's not um that we have to be harsh with ourselves. We just have to keep ourselves in check. And every time that we notice that this is what's going on, kind of just trying to acknowledge it, and analyzing what we can do to step away from those patterns. But they are really deep, and they show up in really profound ways that, like, honestly, I don't want to get super deep into this, but we can see it a lot right now with like the media coverage of the whole case with like Johnny Depp. You know, independently of like what people think about this, like the way that the whole thing is covered is really misogynistic. And I think it also shows up in like when we don't like someone. Let's say that, for instance, someone does something really shitty to you and this person is a woman, then what we attack is her womanhood. We don't attack her character. We don't attack like exactly what she's doing. Like a person that you don't like that is a woman will be called misogynistic names, will be called will be like attacked on her womanhood. Like that's what is going to be the biggest weapon that you will use against someone that is female that has done something wrong. Like, and it's messed up. Then we're just like being incoherent, right? It's like the same way that if you have like someone that harms you that is from a different race, you're not going to use a racial slur to attack them. That's inconsistent. If you are a person that believes in um equality and anti-racism, you're not just going to shift that just because someone is a shitty person. You're not going to call them a racial slur, right? And that's the same thing like with misogyny. Like every time that we don't like something about a woman, we will criticize her weight, or we will criticize, we will call her selfish, we'll say like misogynistic terms towards her. And it's like that's those are the kind of things that we really got to keep on check on ourselves, because it's just so normalized in our society.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many things that as I've done as well. It's just like it just brings. It's just really important to talk about this because then you start understanding what you could do different and understand the facts. This is why in school, in my first school, we were learning crucial conversations, and it's not about it's like the facts, like what happened. Okay, you acted this way, that hurt my feelings, wasn't cool, and you have to also put yourself in check. Are you seeing yourself as a victim, or did you add other situation, did you add more fire or more wood to the fire, or are you just seeing this person just as a victim? Like we're just identifying the facts. So like that's what reminds me when you're saying that we just have to say, I don't like that you talk to me like this, not
Yeah.
being like, oh, you're a woman, you're this, you don't know how to eat right. Like we start,
Yeah.
it's not about that. It's about
Hmm.
this is what happened. This is like the action that I just didn't
Hmm.
like.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not gonna put up with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of thing. And but yeah, like and that's what I really try to do as much as possible. I mean, it's a constant like reminder, it's a constant awareness with yourself and knowing what you're doing and if you do it, correct yourself. It's like I need to apologize because I went overboard when in fact this is what happened. I was upset because of this action, not because of this and this and that I said, because I was
Hmm.
just mad.
Hmm.
And it's good to correct yourself so you could also put yourself accountable. Because I
Hmm.
feel like not everyone is getting accountable, like they just want to like ignore it, or try to be like, well, this is how I was raised, or this is how it is, and whatever. It's
Hmm.
like no, I don't know. I think it's like no, we need to change. We need to be better. We need to support ourselves, and like I could just talk about it because it's I had like this girl who was breastfeeding passing the border, and she would say that how a woman will be more rude to her that she's breastfeeding, and the man will be more like, oh, I'm so sorry, go ahead, like let me give you privacy,
Mm,
so it's just so weird how we're just so attacking each other.
yeah. Yeah, that is a whole other thing that I think very interesting. But I kind of feel like there's like a certain thing of proximity, like proximity to certain other people's privilege. So this happens a lot more with white women, but it also happens in all aspects, in all places, right? But by protecting um, someone else's privilege that we're like have a certain proximity to, we are protecting our like the things that we can absorb from that privilege, right? So like if you are, and that happens in this context, it would be a lot of what there is like a lot of internalized misogyny and toxic femininity in Latinx culture, where is what we were talking about, that you have to be like ironing it for your husband. And sometimes it does come from like this like wanting to preserve the roles because people feel like they need that to survive. And there is like that they don't want to give up the comforts, or the advantages that come with that, right? So it's hard also for people to remember sometimes when they're older how hard it is to have a newborn baby. um, and then there is also that whole other dynamic where we're working with clients and we'll be like talking to them about, for instance, how to take care for them of themselves for postpartum, and they will be talking to their moms, and the moms will be like, why would you need that? I had you and I was back to work at 2 days, so like stop being such a baby and just like do the thing, like it's just normal. And we have been normalizing these kind of things that shouldn't be normal. But there is a certain aspect of, too, like there are people that there is like such little sense of self-worth for some women that they really want to protect this structure where they need to take care of the house and take care of the food, and their husband is going to pay the bills because they are so afraid, because we have been told so many times throughout our lives that we are not as competent, that we are not as smart, that we're not as capable. So women are really scared of like the possibility of having to take care of themselves. And that's the reason why so many people stay in really shitty, abusive, horrible marriages, because they are so afraid that they will have to like get out and go pay their rent, because we are really taught that we are not capable, that just we won't be able to take care of ourselves, we are going to be worth less. And those things are really heavy, and there is like a very deep internalized message around that, so much so there's like I don't remember who did this study, but they found out that, for instance, if there is a job listing and a woman looks at the job listing and she's like 95% qualified, she'll be like, oh darn, I cannot apply for this job because I need to go get the training to be 100% qualified for this job. Like if I don't cover 5% of the prerequisites for this job, I won't apply. And
Yeah.
looks at the listing and he's 50% qualified, and he'll be like, oh, this job is perfect for me, let me apply. And like we wouldn't even know um what could have happened if the woman applied, because she doesn't apply. And so like we doubt ourselves so deeply that so many people do really feel like a really big need to protect this structure where we have a role, we know that we are good at laundry. um Although it sucks, I don't really actually know if anybody thinks that they're good at laundry, but some people do. I actually don't know. Like like they think like, I can iron, I don't need a bachelor's degree to iron a shirt. um
Yeah.
I can do the dishes, I can cook some mac and cheese, and if I do this stuff, like then I will be safe and I'll protect it, and I can enforce that for other people so that we can preserve the system, because there is such a big doubt of what we would be able to do if we did not have that system in place. And it just really comes from like being used to that. But we really got to remember that this is just not a given, that patriarchy and capitalism are not just like an intrinsic part of humanity that is just the way that it is. There are better ways that would allow for everybody to be healthy and happy and well taken care of. But we have been disconnected from a lot of those things through colonization and through industrialization. We have lost a lot of that connection that we had with really what is it that we need, and the confidence that we can take care of those needs.
Yeah, since you told me that study, because I remember telling you, the recent job that they got me,
Hmm.
when I applied, what, December or something. I was like, I even told you, I was like, I don't know, they want a bachelor's. I don't have a bachelor's. And then you told me that, and I said, okay, bueno pues, I'm gonna like apply. Let's see. Then the worst thing to say is they could say no to me, right?
Hmm.
And then I was, 50-50 competition with another person. And then I didn't get it because I was a student midwife. And I was like, "Whatever." And then they came back to me and asked me, and I was just like, okay, like perfect timing because I was actually looking for something. And, I got hired. So it's just crazy. I was like, I don't have a bachelor's, and I was just like, okay, thank you, Marisa, because otherwise I wouldn't have applied. I would have not applied at all.
I'm so glad that you applied, and I'm so glad that you got that job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
I was just like,
definitely we
yeah.
doubt ourselves a lot. And yeah, I mean, and the other reason why we protect this system is just because a lot of the, and this is something that I was talking to recently. I'm trying to remember which book it was. I'm part of this book club with Bebo Mia, the feminist book club that they have, and it's
Mm.
so good. It's so good. I'm trying to remember the last book that we discussed.
Oh, I
Good and
know.
Mad. It's about women's anger. And it was really good. But we were talking about like the other reason why we defend the system too is because a lot of these people that are perpetuating this system of oppression are people that we love. You know, ultimately, we love our children, we love our brothers, we love our fathers. For those of you who love your husbands, good for you. Uh, cheers.
Cheers.
um, yeah, but yeah, like people also defend these systems because they love the men that benefit from them, and that's a whole other thing that is really hard. Like, just like the again with the toxic femininity, is just like you can love someone without sacrificing yourself. Actually, that is better and truer love, when it's a love that is actually really taking care of both of you, as opposed to just like that romanticized idea that because you love someone you're willing to give everything for them, if even if they are just giving you crumbs.
Yeah. I mean, we could do on and on and on because I feel like, we could reminding more stuff, but I feel like this is a really good start. And I really appreciate your time and you just discussing this and reminding me even either further and of this awareness. But yeah, I think it's a good start. I think slowly somehow we can, maybe not everyone, but there's going to be a group that will be shifting that way and making things really cool. And then I'm going to be excited to be like, hey, I found my balance
Yeah,
and share it up because I think it's possible.
yeah, I
We
mean,
just
it's
have to like
shifting.
accept it.
And I really think, like, sometimes I get bummed about all these, and it's just like, just keep on working on deconstructing these things and doing the best that we can, so that hopefully our granddaughters don't have to deal with the same kind of um dynamics that we're dealing with. And we are walking to, like, we are building a different world every day, so hopefully we can build something that provides better conditions
Yeah.
for the generations to come.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you saying that because, I remember my mom saying, oh, well, you don't have it as bad as I had it, So just do this. Just hurry up and do the dishes. And I remember telling that to my daughter one time. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I did all this work to try to break the trauma cycles of my family, especially my mom, my grandma. So you don't have to experience this. So I should not be reminding you that you don't have it as bad as me. That was my ultimate goal.
Hmm.
Now it's just knowing how to communicate with a teenager who don't want to listen to you. Like you just gotta learn how to do this compassion communication.
How to start without guilt.
You're just like, oh, just listen, right? But no, like, you're trying, this is the purpose. Is like, I'm so happy my kids don't have it as bad as me, nor
Mhm,
my mom, then my grandma, blah, blah, blah,
mhm,
so forth.
mhm,
Now it's just, we gotta also learn how to have nonviolent communication.
mhm, mhm.
So it's slowly changing. So yeah, it'll be there. But no, but thank you very much. This is pretty much the end of our podcast. If there's anything else you want to share, like anything that you want people to reach out to you, or if you do anything virtual or just locally in Washington, let us know.
Um, yeah, you guys can find out. Anyone that speaks Spanish can listen to my podcast, La Revolución del Parto. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Also through the Center for Indigenous Midwifery. Anyone that wants to connect, we run a weekly Zoom cast, not a Zoom cast, a weekly Zoom meeting for Indigenous families. We also have a Zoom cast that comes out every month. And in terms of the things that I am doing over here, just teaching a lot of childbirth education. I have an upcoming workshop that is going to be my first childbirth education workshop for birthing from within. It's going to be in September. And yeah, I think that those are the things that I am doing. If anybody wants to learn more about me or find me, you can find me in Instagram. I have two pages. There is Womb Revolution, and then there is La Revolución del Parto. So there is one in English and one in Spanish. And anyone that wants to email me can email me at marisa@wombrevolution.com.
Yes, and I'll be putting everything down in the description so everyone can find you easier. And yeah, and for me, I have a new office space. Woo, so excited, and doing this weekly promotion of Reiki sessions in person or virtual. So you could just always holla at me, at Latinx Women's Health. And we could just do some awesome cleansing and cutting cords and find this balance and grounding within yourself to give that self love. And that's pretty much it. And then we'll just see you guys next episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Have a great day.
Tip.